Hello and welcome to Favorite Rugby on Favorite Sport, and some pretty big news in South African rugby this week with the Currie Cup future currently hanging in the balance with the potential for the tournament not to go ahead this season. And if that were to happen, then potentially could even be the end of the Currie Cup as we know it, given the challenges logistically of having to try and schedule the tournament in and amongst the various different local commitments that our teams have, in particular our URC teams, as well as the cheaters who do play in the EPCR Challenge Cup. Now, we're going to go through exactly what the situation is, what's been said, what hasn't been said, as to what the future of the Currie Cup is going to potentially be moving forward. Before we do that, please do smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Right, so we had it a few months ago with SA Rugby officially confirming the format of the Currie Cup, and with it also the announcement of the SA Cup, which actually got underway last week, Ken, and we saw some really exciting games, and it was a really nice weekend of rugby, and it was good to see a lot of the teams, your likes of your Leopards, your Greeks, your Pumas, even the Cheetahs, for example, all managing to sort of get back to the rugby field and start sort of preparing for the Currie Cup, which is the biggest competition that a lot of these teams play in. And the Currie Cup's been a bit of a secondary priority, if I could put it that way, in terms of the way that SA Rugby has treated it over the last few years. You know, with the change in scheduling, for example, and the move to Europe, that is obviously seeing the Currie Cup having to be played at various different times, and as a result, we haven't seen the strongest teams being played at the Currie Cup because of the other commitments. Now, in December, SA Rugby sent out a press release, and that was about the Nzansi Challenge, the First Division Currie Cup, and the Currie Cup Premier Division. And that said that the Currie Cup was going to be played from July through to September. It also mentioned new qualification coming in 2025. It talked about that all provinces are given a shot at Premier Division status, as well as confirming the women's setup as well for the Currie Cup itself. Now, this is become a problem because my players, which is a players union basically, which represent all the various players in the South African unit, are currently in the center of an arbitration hearing between themselves and the South African Rugby Union over player welfare and the workload that these players are currently undergoing. It is said, according to the weekend media, that the Currie Cup could be called off if my players win this arbitration case. So this now is reported that Rugby 365 is saying that players remain committed to playing in the Currie Cup despite the current standoff. It said that the publication obtained a copy of the letter sent out by my players to the members on Friday, the 15th of March. And in the letter, the players' union confirms the matter has been referred to formal arbitration. One of those snippets is that although the annual successful delivery of the Currie Cup competition is of utmost importance to all of us, we could not agree for SARU and SAREU, in addition to the above load increases, to play players for up to 20 months without rest going forward. And that is the issue, is the fact that at the moment will be no rest period. You know, if you look at your URC players, for example, the Lions, Bulls, Sharks, Stormers, they, in theory, for instance, the URC campaign in about May. If they make it to playoffs, they can actually play through to June. And then the expectation is they then start playing Currie Cup immediately, once again, in July and August. Now, to finish in September. Now, initially, July and August were reserved as rest period for the provincial players. Which is why last season we saw the Currie Cup being played earlier in the season, sort of March, April. I think the Currie final was actually in June, so it's sort of aligned. This was mentioned in the letter that my players sent to the members. It said, and then they said that playing the Currie Cup during the July to September period therefore creates player welfare challenges. There was an initial agreement that the union would be allowed to rest players on an individual basis. However, in a dramatic turn of events, South African Rugby Union has insisted on the inclusion of a provision that would allow players to play for up to 20 months without a break. They said that the discussions were constructive, and for most of it, it seemed a solution would be broken. However, my players is saying that the practice of playing players for longer than 12 months without rest is nowhere applied in World Rugby, nor supported by conditioning experts we consulted with and or in line with the draft World Rugby player load guidelines. It says, in addition, the South African player load increased significantly since the start of the URC, in that players now have shorter annual rest periods. The amount of international provincial games per year increased by almost 38%, and national players load was increased by almost 15%, while international travel increased with 300% and now conducted in economy class with limited direct route options. So again, this is sort of the main sort of players that are sort of being thought about here. So the article says that if the My Players win the arbitration case, the Currie Cup will be moved to an earlier window, and as a result could risk losing a major sponsor of the tournament, because obviously they're sponsoring this tournament with the thinking that they're going to be playing with the best players available. You know, your stars of the Currie Cup, not necessarily your Springbok players, because they'll be sort of wearing national duty, but you know, your for example, if you look at the Lions, you know, your players like a Frank Horn, who hasn't been included in a lineman camp, for example, you expect him to sort of play those kind of players. You know, you look at your Bulls and you know, Johan Goosen, you know, Imbrose Papier, you know, these kind of players, you know, these sort of stars of the local sides, which might not be playing Springbok Rugby, would be involved in the Currie Cup, and the sponsors are happy to put their name with that. If, however, it's going to weaken sides, it just sort of waters down the competition. One of the officials at Sorry complains that if the My Players are successful and the Currie Cup does not continue, many players could become employed. You're talking about your Leopards players, your Cheetahs players, your you know, Pumas, Griquas players, for example. How does it all impact them? They said as follows to a report, apparently, that My Players keep listening to the top 20 to 50 players, but what about the rest? If My Players is successful and all the players have to rest in an 8-week block at the same time, the Currie Cup cannot continue. Apparently, the My Players are standing the ground saying that the Currie Cup is very important, but player welfare is more important. All the negotiations started last year in November, but will now be decided arbitration. So it's no longer a discussion. It is now going to be put to a separate entity, and they will then decide what the plan of action is. And it's sad that it's going to come to this. And I don't really know what the right answer is, for example, you know, because player welfare does always have to be central. The Currie Cup remains an important competition though for South Africa, and not just for a history and a historical relevance point of view, but for, as they mentioned, you know, for the pipeline. You know, teams like the Pumas and the Griquas, that's their big competition. They don't play in EBCL competition. They're not going to be playing in URC anytime soon. So the Currie Cup is their be or end, or Currie Cup and the SA Cup or the Mzansi Challenge, for example, those various things. But the Currie Cup is their biggest competition, and it's what keeps them going. You know, it's what gets them sponsors. It's what, you know, keeps them alive as a union alongside the grants. But these sponsors and these grants are not going to increase if there's no Currie Cup action. So it's a bit of a worrying situation. We'll have to monitor and see exactly what happens in the next few months. But do you have any solutions? What would you do? What do you think of the situation? And what do you think is the best sort of middle ground that SA Rugby Employees Association and My Players can sort of come to an agreement with? Let me know down in the comments below. Please do smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve. Chat to you soon.